Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at setting up and working with our accelerometer found in our Link G5 and G4X systems. Now, accelerometer is going to allow us to measure our G-forces placed on our vehicle as we're in racing conditions. So we have our lateral G-force, we have our longitudinal G-force, and we have our vertical G-force. Our lateral G-force allows us to measure how much cornering G-force we're seeing when we're going around a corner. Our longitudinal G-force is going to measure both acceleration G-force and braking G-force. So acceleration would be the positive direction, the braking would be the negative direction. Then we'll also find we have our vertical G-force, which measures the car's movement up and down. That's not so important for a road course car or a drag car. However, it could be useful for a rally car if it's trying to determine if the car is getting airborne or not. Accelerometers are a great tool for both looking at the data and performance of a vehicle, but we can also repurpose within the link to use as a runtime value for programming. So we have a lot of flexibility here with the accelerometer. The very first thing that we want to do is make sure that the accelerometer is calibrated correctly for our vehicle. So the Link G5 and the G4X plug-and-plays will all come with a built-in accelerometer. We also have the Link G4X Fury and G4X Extreme boxes have the built-in accelerometer. So if you're using a lesser tier G4X box, you'll find that the accelerometer is not going to be present. So all G5s should have the accelerometer as far as I know. The Voodoo Pro definitely does, and the plug-and-play GT86 box, which is on the market right now, definitely has it. So I think all G5s will include it, but most G4Xs will have it as well. Let's go and take a look at setting this up so that we can zero out our accelerometer based on wherever our ECU is mounted in our vehicle, because the accelerometer is on the ECU board. So depending on how you mount the ECU in the car, whether it's going to be mounted vertically or it's going to be mounted upside down, any orientation in the car, we need to calibrate the accelerometer so that when we're looking at the G-force data, when the car is stationary, for example, everything is going to be zeroed out correctly. So that's the very first step in order to use the accelerometer. So let's jump in. I have a dedicated page layout for working and looking at our accelerometer. Let's go in here to our layout. We're going to go all the way to the bottom under accelerometer, and we can see just a basic page right now so we can access the most important information for looking at the accelerometer. Now you can build this page out however you'd like, but I just have some of this basic data in here. So the very first thing we're going to know looking at our runtime values, these are going to be our values we can see live with the link. We can actually add another window in here, a time plot related window, so we can track and trace through a time plot to see what's going on. I haven't added that in here yet, just build something basic here just to do this quick tutorial. So what we can see here is we have our lateral G-force, we have our longitudinal G-force, and our vertical G-force. So X, Y, and Z. Looking at this, lateral is going to be cornering G-forces, so left to right. Typically, left is negative, right is positive in terms of your G-force reported. Then we have our longitudinal, the Y, which is going to be our braking and acceleration. So positive longitudinal acceleration G-force is acceleration rate or acceleration. And then taking a look at braking, it would be negative G-force. So that's typically how we're always seeing the orientation here. And then we see the vertical Z acceleration. This is going to be stuck at 1.0. That's normal for looking just down on the vehicle. So kind of looking from the sky, looking down, that's the G-force that we're finding being placed on our vehicle. So we notice here that everything is zeroed out, meaning lateral, longitudinal are both 0. And then we can see here vertical is essentially 1.0. Now we do see that they're moving around here. That is normal. But what I've done here before I even started to film, I went here to zero accelerometer and I double clicked from run to zero accelerometer. If we click OK here, it's going to pause for a second and it's going to zero out your accelerometer readings relative to wherever your ECU is mounted. So it doesn't matter how you've mounted your ECU, as long as it's solidly mounted, you can do this calibration option, the zero accelerometer, it'll go ahead and zero these out. So again, 1.0 in our vertical acceleration is normal, 0 and 0 for lateral longitudinal is normal after you've run this test. The next step here is actually going in and driving your vehicle and testing under a deceleration, so braking, making sure that when you're braking, the longitudinal acceleration here shows negative and that you're not picking up anything onto the lateral acceleration. So this remains 0. You do have to make sure if you're hitting the brakes going from something like 60 to 10 mile per hour or 60 to 20 mile per hour, you don't have to lock the brakes up, but applying the brakes enough that you will start to generate some negative longitudinal acceleration here. You want to make sure that the car is tracking in a straight line when you are hitting the brakes. It doesn't pull all over the place. That way you can test to make sure that you're only getting longitudinal G-force and not picking up any lateral G-force. Now, if you're noticing as you're hitting the brakes and doing this test that you do start to pick up some lateral acceleration G-force, you're going to have to go to this parameter here, orientation correction, and play with the value until you see, again, in a perfectly straight line as you're braking, that you're not picking up any lateral acceleration. And then likewise, if you're going around a corner, either left or right, you're not going to be picking up any longitudinal acceleration. So this is just going to be making sure that these are separate from each other. Now, you will have some cross mixing going on, but in a dynamic cornering situation, you should pick up the majority of the movement as lateral, not longitudinal. It should be absorbing that. So this orientation correction is used in some situations if we're finding, again, doing that braking test, if our lateral is starting to pick up some movement, then we want to go ahead and adjust the value there. So we can see here, you can just double click and enter in some values, and you do have to do some trial and error back and forth to get that worked out. But once you...
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.